but also this event in collaboration with them. And so without further ado, we're going to introduce our two speakers.
Awesome. So first we have Rebecca Cox, founder and CEO of Project Olas. I'm sure a lot of you have heard her name jumping around, but so some more details about her before she'll be able to talk about herself is she's a sophomore in the SFS and founded Olas last spring, that the day COVID actually hit Guatemala. She spent her last 2 years of high school living in Spain and graduated from a program in Spain before coming to Georgetown. She currently runs a team of around 16 moms in Guatemala and 20 team members here in the US. She was named in DC's 25 under 25, gave an amazing TED Talk, and also just won the Bark Tank competition, winning $30,000 for Project Olas. So a really accomplished person, and we're so excited to hear everything she has to say tonight. And Rebecca is joined by Carmen, who's 27 years old from Guatemala City and works for Creamos and Safe Passage, the kind of parent organization for Creamos. She just finished her studies at college and is in the process of getting her degree in a Bachelor of Educational Administration. She started volunteering at Safe Passage in 2011 and has been involved in different projects since then. She formally started working at Creamos in 2018 with the Generating Income program, which is really similar to the mission we have at Project Olas to help generate income for Olas moms. And this year, Creamos started an adult literacy program, and she's now the teacher coordinator for that program. So we have two amazing women here tonight to tell their stories. So without further ado, I'd love for them both to give some introductory remarks, and if they want to start on our first topic of the day, which is how are each of your organizations created, both Project Olas and Creamos.
Yeah, thank you guys for that super warm introduction. It's great to see everybody here. I'm so excited to be talking with Carmen tonight. We were just talking before this started about how Carmen and I at the beginning of Olas's launch would talk like every night. And so it's really nice to be able to reconnect a little bit right now. But yeah, I don't know, Carmen, if you do you want to go first? Because Creamos was created first, so maybe that makes sense to talk about.
Yeah, sure. So just to give you like a little bit background about Creamos. Creamos started in 2008. We start from the main NGO that is Safe Passage. So Safe Passage works for education for kids, and Creamos work only for adults. So in 2008, Safe Passage realized that it was a really huge need for the parents to being educated, because the kids were having education in the passage, but at the same time they came back every day at the same environment. So the education didn't have like a really huge impact as they wanted, because the parents were not educated. So that's how Creamos started, and through the process, also it was really hard to have them at the women at the project student when they actually needed to also get an income. So Creamos started with this program for the income generated program for the women with the connection of the studies. And in 2014, Safe Passage and Creamos decided to separate it in a different NGOs, because like Creamos started like selling things, like having items to sell to different people, and Safe Passage was like only for education. So legally we needed to separate. So that's how Creamos started. And also because like in Creamos, they realized, because the average of studies in Creamos, it was like the highest level, it was 6th grade, that it was like finishing elementary. But then like when the women were finishing like elementary, they came back to the garbage dump because they didn't have an income. So that's how the generated income program started, and the education program like were working together. And in 2014, it was like legally formal as an NGO.
Awesome. Yeah. So with the story for Olas, I'm sure all of you guys are kind of sick of it by now. I see a lot of new faces. But just briefly, the real impetus, like the real seed that was planted, was my own experience reconnecting with a mom in Spain, because my mom passed away when I was 10, and so I don't know, I'd always been very conscious of the motherly love when I would go to my friends' houses and things like that. And yeah, so when I was 16, I decided to do a year abroad in Spain, and there I met my host mom, and the connection with her was kind of magical. And I realized that there was a real unique power that she had to make me feel more comfortable, and my Spanish would just get so much better when I would talk with her versus anybody else. And she probably taught me half of what I know in Spanish, at least. And so I knew that those relationships worked, and that was a really powerful experience. And yeah, I ended up staying in Spain for 2 years, and that eventually ended up bringing me to Georgetown. And at Georgetown, I started working with an organization I think some of you guys work with, DC Schools, and got more exposed to the immigrant population in DC. And things kind of fit together too, because Safe Passage, big NGO in Central America that I knew about, and turned out to be a really great fit when I found Creamos, and I started talking with Hannah and Carmen, and we just wanted to see if something like Olas would work, and if it was a good idea. And it turns out that it does work, and it's a very good idea. And so we I guess I don't want to ramble on too long, but we did, as Noelle was saying, Sarah was saying, was to go down to Guatemala for about 3 months this past summer and work on the ground with Ramos's technology, tech literacy program, and kind of get to know all the moms, and launch Olas this fall. Like maybe 2 months ago, we would have launched, but COVID interrupted that. And we realized that it was way more vital that we start trying to provide some relief right away, because in April last year, Carmen can talk more to this as well, Creamos had to shut down a lot of their programs because of COVID. Moms couldn't even get into the garbage dump if they wanted to, because that was shut down, and the bank closures and the marketplace closures, or not closures, but limited operating hours. COVID, all of the inequalities in the world really came to the fore during COVID. So we realized it was kind of now or never. Yeah, so that's the whole story of how we got started.
Thank you both for sharing. I think it's inspiring how both organizations came to be, and especially how it's rooted in this idea of like community-based change, being able to create safe and sustainable income, and really being able to address social inequities. I think both of you touched on that really eloquently. And I wanted to learn more from both of you, what you guys think about your missions, and why it's important to have this like social impact focus, this ability to address social inequity and create opportunities for the community members themselves.
That's such a big question. But yeah, Carmen, do you want to go first?
Yeah, of course. And just for you to know like a little bit more about the NGO, and also like now that Ola is part of it. So in Creamos, we have 3 important areas. That is the income generated program, emotional support, and education. So for example, I can tell that the impact that we do as an organization, the first one is the income generated program. We have 54 women working with us, receiving an income like formally, and the average is like 15% more that they do in the garbage dump. So usually a person at the garbage dump has an income from $4 to $6 per day, working all day long. So besides that, like the benefits that they have, and that's like the like how we say like the benefit that they have with us is like not only the income, but they don't have to worry about the place where they work, because it's a place where they can be. Also, they don't have to worry about their kids because we offer the service for the babysitter, and flexible schedule. So in Guatemala, sometimes for the rules that some companies have is like, if you get there late, you can lose your job, and the moms in Creamos don't have to be worried about it. So then we have the emotional support areas, where we have 3 professional people working on it, 2 psychologists and 1 licensed clinical social worker, that they are in charge for the individual, group therapy, family therapy. They have those kind of hard conversations that you can see as a taboo in Guatemala, like for example, like sexually if like conversations, like grief conversations, like the attention that the people actually like no usually get, and also the exercise program that we have, that it's like the hour where the women can actually have fun, and they can be themselves, and they can just feel free to have this opportunity at the project. But that's the program that we actually use to make the recruitment, because exercise is open for all the women in the community, and that's how we get the chance to know more women, and to see how we can help them. And the last is the last and very important education, that now like we're really happy to work with Olas. We have literacy, where the women are learning how to read and how to write. We have elementary, we have middle school and high school, and we have 133 students. Probably we are going to have a little bit more next year. We are 5 teachers in charge for the program in different areas. And now, as I mentioned before, like Olas is a really important part of the education program, because it's not only that you are receiving classes from like moms in Guatemala City, is also Olas is in charge for giving a curriculum and also teach them like communication skills. So those are really benefits for them, because they are not only working and getting an income, they are learning from this experience.
Yeah, I think that was beautifully put, Carmen. I think for us it's pretty similar. The reason that I think our partnership with Creamos works so well is because we share those same values of financial literacy, and then the emotional component as well. I think a lot of NGOs or a lot of social impact organizations focus entirely on the financial component without touching on the psychological aspect of things. And so we've tried to take your guys' approach and bring that into all of our training programs and everything we do. And we've seen some really amazing transformations on both sides, of the student side and the mom side, because of that. And so I think that there's importance to what Olas does at a lot of different levels. I think first, global inequality. It's pretty staggering to understand that. To be honest, I'm still only starting to understand what the socioeconomic realities of Guatemala City and Guatemala as a country. But learning more and more from moms. It's one of the biggest problems that our generation's gonna have to work on, just the global inequities that are so visible, and especially during a time like COVID. And I think the fundamental belief that I think Creamos shares with us as well is about the power of putting some power, of moms having more power and more control over their own lives, because it's true in lots of different areas, with any sort of cash transfer program, things like that. When you put money into the hands of a mother, and also the confidence and skills, that transforms a community. And that's one of the, the closest thing you can call a fact in I think poverty alleviation solutions, at least from the research that we've done. So at that's the kind of the why, that there's so many whys. And then but I also feel that personally, or as Georgetown students, we live in a bubble, like an absolute bubble. That was the first thing that was so obvious to me at coming to Georgetown. Like, it's not the real world. That's absolutely not the real world. And I would catch myself like feeling sorry for myself, or feeling, worried, because there are some people that have like just absolutely fantastic amounts of like quantitative things that I don't have. But I would notice myself like complaining about X, Y, or Z, or stressed about an essay and things like that. It's just, and it was starting to worry me. Like, that's just because it's not the real world, and getting sucked into that sort of mentality is one of the most dangerous things I think about the more elite college system in the US. And so I hope that, part of what Olas could do would be a bridge, and, bringing us back to the real world and reminding us like exactly what our education's for, and not just like what it can do for us. So that was my personal motivation, as well, during the original. That's why I think it's important that we be a student-led organization, that we have Club Olas and all of those sorts of things.
Awesome. I think what Rebecca was just saying, as Project Olas being a bridge from students to a lot of the realities these women are facing in different countries. I'd also love to hear more maybe from Carmen about how do we bridge the gap between these women and also just the society they're living in Guatemala, the services provided to them, where they live, and learn more how both these organizations, I think, are bridging gaps, but I think also you guys are bridging a slightly different gap. And I'd love to hear more about that, about possibly the education you're trying to give these women.
Yeah, of course. As something that we realize when we talk about like education in general, is that when you actually teach someone that doesn't have like a really good background, not only for where they were born, it's like the environment where they are, and all the things that they have to live through. And you have those like these chances to teach them like new things. It's when you create something amazing, like what we do as Creamos, like providing general education and the basic education that they need to actually to get a job. And what like now the bridge that we are doing with Olas is what I talk with Rebecca, like that for me is amazing how a women with self-esteem problems from March to see her, like for example in August, and it's totally different. How confident a person can be just for education, just to receive this change. And it is not only about the income, it's about the opportunity that they have to learn, and how they took this leadership in the community. Because it's not only like, because just for you to have a general idea, like people live like next to each other, so they live really close. You can hear your neighbor, like everything. So that's how the community is. So when a woman is like in this kind of programs, or when the women are in like receiving education, they empower themselves to share this experience with people at the community. And it's like a vulnerable community that it's used to hear that they can study, that they can have new opportunities, that they can actually have a better future. So when they actually are having it, is a huge impact in a positive way, and how they spread out this intention, this communication, these ideas in the community is the most like valuable for me.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I think what we were talking about this beforehand, in our conversations about some of the moms, just the transformation in communication style, and in kind of the way moms will carry themselves. And we can even see it in videos too. Like moms who are just very nervous to get started, completely coming out of their shell and gaining a ton of self-confidence and a ton of interpersonal skills because of that shift in dynamic, which I think it's so important that both Creamos and Olas shift the dynamic, where it's a lot of the time, in NGO culture, if you want to call it that, it's like, I'm helping you, I'm giving you this, and it creates this power dynamic that's just exacerbating the problem that already exists. And then with organizations like Olas and Creamos, I think having community-led initiatives and initiatives where you actually have somebody from the vulnerable community in the position of power in the relationship as the teacher, I think that changes everything. And so I think, Jeff, it's important to mention also that because we as US-based students could never understand fully what it's like to be from Zone 3. That's why it's so important for us to have a partnership with somebody like Creamos, or an organization like Creamos, and have also employ people from within the community. We have a mom named Paula, who's our local coordinator, who is a member of the team and is helping us make the decisions. I think that's also, if we're going to talk about like why what we do is important and how we distinguish ourselves from less responsible social ventures, I think that's something that we both share as organizations, importance of that.
I'm so glad that both of you touched on the importance of community-led initiatives, and I think really basing like leadership and empowerment within the community is so crucial. So thank you for bringing that up. And I think it's really important to consider when we're exploring how your everyday looks like in terms of your position as part of the leadership of each of your organizations. How do you ensure that that is incorporated in like how you lead, how you just go about your involvement and your position within each of your respective organizations?
Well, for me, before COVID and after COVID, so as a teacher, I can tell you, like, one day I can be planning, grading, and talking with the students, and the other day I can be like coordinator the communication between the like education team with the directors. So something that I really love about my job, and it's like the kind of like the NGOs environment is like every day is gonna be different. Every day is gonna be different. Like you are expecting like to do something, but probably like something else is going to come up. So you never know what's gonna happen. Like for like also for, and this is like general information, usually in the NGOs you don't have like a lot of people to like work in different areas, so sometimes you have to be doing like different things. So that's why we have a structure obviously about our roles in the NGO, but we actually learn about like different areas of the organization because we want to. And I mean, I'm happy with that. Like I really enjoy my job because I have a relationship with my students, with my team, with the other staff members. So like the communication is the key for everything works well at my work.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to every day being quite different. And yeah, so for me, it's really interesting to be a full-time student and like a full-time running an organization, because oftentimes I feel like I'm like my education's coming from Olas, like school sometimes slips into something that I do as like a chore on the side, but not always. And sometimes I think the best moments are when what I'm learning in school is directly applicable to Olas, and then it's wonderful. But yeah, I think I don't think I have a typical experience in terms of what it's like to run a startup, just because I am in college. And the same thing with the team. I don't think our team runs like a normal startup. I don't think it's gonna run the same way after we graduate. But yeah, in terms of what I do on a daily basis, like I think one of the things that one of my mentors have told me early on is that, you know, my job as the organization is to never do the same thing twice. Like if there's a process that I understand, that I've gotten the hang of enough, getting in the groove of things, and you want to keep doing it, but that you delegate it to somebody else, and then you're kind of onto the next horizon of the next thing to tackle, the next thing to organize. And also, I think that I think that anybody who I just think that entrepreneurship is a really, really important tool for everybody in our generation, and especially women as well. For two reasons. I think entrepreneurship is a really important skill because, you know, when we graduate, the next 10 years, jobs are just going to change wildly. Like technology, everything is changing wildly in the world, and the only constant is the idea that we're going to have to innovate and make change and see problems and know how to analyze problems and fix them in real time. And so that's Olas, and I think Noelle and Sarah and Saria and all the people I'm seeing from Olas here can attest to that a lot of Olas is constantly, you know, finding the problems, fixing the problems, moving to the next step. It's something really, really new, and it's really exciting, and they're skills that I don't think are replicable in the traditional classroom. So that's one of the reasons why I think that so many people have jumped on board, because it's such a valuable skill in itself, entrepreneurship, and the things that we're learning here. And then the women part as well. Like we're a predominantly female organization, and I've noticed that as a predominantly female organization, we run a lot differently. Like there's I think the hierarchy is a lot flatter, the communication is a lot different, and it's a really, really beautiful community that's been formed. I mean, maybe I'm just talking. Noelle and Sarah, you guys can confirm whether you think it's a beautiful community or not. But I think there's something really special about women gaining entrepreneurial skills, because the organizations we create have a different style to them in a lot of ways, which is refreshing and heartwarming. But yeah, Noelle, feel free to fact check me if you find it cutthroat.
No, that was great. I definitely agree. And I often tell Noelle my favorite thing to do is procrastinate my schoolwork with Olas work. So definitely can reiterate everything Rebecca's saying. So kind of with that point, you talked about some things that are different with both your organizations. I'd also love to know if there's any misconceptions in the field of nonprofits, NGOs, even in your own communities, which are both going to be very different communities. If there's any things you think people perceive about you that you don't find to be true, or just of the stereotypical NGO. And
So from Creamos side, I think that the difficult thing for us is the income generator program because a lot of people in the community, women, men, they think that we have like a lot of work to give, and that's not how it works. You know, like we have a process, we have a limit of like about how many people we can have, for example, in the sewing shop and the jewelry program and services that we offer at different companies. So for us, I think that this is like the hard part sometimes, because when we are talking about money and when we work with a really vulnerable community, that it's some of them are there for because they need the money, because they need the income. It's kind of hard sometimes to management that topic, and that's why like one of our also like important aspect for us to teach is financial. Like we teach like every person that wants to participate in Creamos needs to go through that course, needs to go to the financial part, because we are not that organization that we are just gonna give money to them and then we never know like what they're gonna do with their money. We teach them that process too, like how to manage the budget, how the banks like works, like the services in Guatemala, and how to handle all those things in their lives. So for us, I think that one of the biggest like challenges is this part. It can be like misunderstood by the people at the community.
Yeah, yeah, no, I that's very similar to what I was going to mention as well. I think the biggest misconception that I've seen, and probably the most dangerous one too, if it's carried out, is I think people tend to have an idea that as a social impact organization, an organization that has as its goal not to make profit but to do good, that they kind of have the idea that you should be losing money, like as a nonprofit or as a social impact LLC or whatever you are. It's like they expect you to be constantly in the red, and I think that's a really dangerous misconception, because in order to be a responsible organization, you have to be a sustainable organization, and in order to be a sustainable organization, you can't be in the red. You can't operate in that way. So I think the main thing that I've learned, and the reason I think that the main thing I've learned that running a social impact venture, you have to run it like a business, but work much harder, because you have two bottom lines. Like, you need to make sure what you're doing is sustainable. So in that sense, you have to be thinking about money. You have to be asking all the same questions, but you don't leave it at that like most businesses do. Our primary mission is always for the moms in the community and having intimacy within the community, making sure that we're promoting local leadership, that we're hearing all the needs, that we're understanding the systemic issues. So basically, when you start, it's not like there's the social impact world and there's the business world. It's like, no, the social impact world, you have to run like a business and know exactly how a business is supposed to run, but then also do a whole nother thing. Like, it's you have to work much harder at the same things, because your bottom line doesn't stop at profit. So I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions that I've seen in terms of just people interacting with organizations that are like centered. And Olas will never be dependent on like one grant or one prize to keep going and to keep providing a sustainable income to moms. We want to be here long term, and so it's very important that the team can speak the language of business, like as any MSB student, but then turn around and be completely focused on the community and figure out how those business tools can lead us to the solutions that are actually beneficial. Does that make sense? I hope that made sense. That was quite a ramble.
Yeah, that was. I think what both of you mentioned is so crucial in demystifying both social impact and the nonprofit sector, and something wonderful for attendees who are interested in getting involved in both of those sectors. And so to finish out our conversation before we move into Q&A, I'd love to hear both of what or students that are considering being part of social impact, want to get their foot through the door but don't know how. And then also, Carmen, what advice you'd give to anyone who's considering exploring the nonprofit sector, getting involved in an NGO. So either one of you can start it off.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, guys, is to learn the language. So Olas is very important part of my advice for you to get a chance. I think that, and as my own experience and as Guatemalan, when I started working as a volunteer, my thoughts were like, I'm gonna be the hero. I'm just gonna save the world with my own ideas, like, and I can tell you, as a Guatemalan here, my community, my country. So I was like I'm just gonna go there, work for them, like save them, and that's not how it works, first of all. So you need to know, you need to make the research. That's why like I was really happy like since the beginning to work with Olas with Rebecca, because she was really open to actually listen and to try to understand how the I mean culture changes. It's very important to know, like to know the community, know where you are like where you are coming, like what's the things that you can do and the things that you can't do. And so that will be pretty much my advice to work in Latin America, in Guatemala. First of all, to learn the language, because if you come here and you don't know like and it's not like you have to know like the full language, because not even me in English, I don't know like everything, but it's gonna be like a totally different experience, because you're gonna be able to have a relationship with the people that you're going to work with, and you're going to get the chance to understand so much better the concept of the things that you are doing. Because I can tell you, for me, volunteer, it has been one of the best experiences in my life, because I have learned so much more that I have gave. Like I just have received a lot from the break, like the volunteers that I did before, for the work that I do right now, is like the things and the satisfaction that you receive for the things that you do is so much more for the things that probably you are expecting. So first of all, like to learn the language, to know the community, to learn like about a little bit more about the culture, to be really open-minded, to be resilient, because there is a lot of things that you are not gonna understand, even though like probably you just studied the things before, and to be passionate like with yourself, like, and to have this passion to help, to be willing to help, and to learn. That's one of my biggest like advice that I can give you for my own experience.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, on my side, I guess I could give some advice on like starting something, because I think that's I didn't, this time last year, I did not think I would be the CEO and founder of anything. Like I didn't think that was going to be the case. It life just kind of took me that way, because I said yes, and I kept saying yes, and I kept trying to learn. And I think that's the way it works. So like, I guess I would, like, it's very easy to diagnose the problems of the world a lot of the time. Like we can see problems that exist. We see opportunities for connection. Look, Olas was created because we saw the opportunity for connection. Like we saw rising communications technology penetration rates in Central America, especially Guatemala, and I saw that students in the Spanish classroom were engaging in speaking and listening practice in a deeply meaningful way, or in a way that prepared them for work abroad, or just speaking with a native speaker. So there was seeing that problem. I brought that to a lot of different people, like even in the NGO world, and none of them thought it would work. It's like, oh, I can see 1,000 problems with that. Like I can see why that wouldn't work. And so I guess my main advice is like, try something, like try creating something, and just see where it takes you. Because there's many times that we've failed with certain things at Olas. We've dropped different ideas, and we've tried them out, and each time, you just get better and better. So I guess my primary advice would be like, if you have an idea, just try it, and at least you'll learn why it doesn't work. And because again, I think it's just a very important skill. And then also, if you want to do anything in the social impact world, or just in life in general, remember that it's not about you. I guess that's something that constantly is a relief to me, and just in a kind of, when I most enjoy my work is when I have the least like self in mind. Like when I'm not, I think I don't know if that makes sense. Like what I'm trying to say is that like put everything else in front of yourself. Like put your team in front of you, put the mission in front of you. Like my needs, when my needs are like, I think my natural state is to like, think of myself first and think of everything else second. Like maybe I'm just a little selfish, but being at Olas helps me to invert that pyramid completely. And that's when I like find the most meaning in what I'm doing. So I hope that made sense to somebody, but I think, yeah, just remembering that even if you're the leader, it's not about you. And it never was.
Thank you both for that. I think that's really inspiring for anyone on the Zoom call. And I think Sarah will take over from here.
Yeah, so we've gotten a couple questions related to this. So people really want to hear, where are your organizations going? So in 5-10 years, kind of what do you, I know Carmen, it's a little harder for you you're not the CEO of Creamos, but even if you want to talk about yourself personally or where you think Creamos is going. But as like Rebecca was mentioning earlier, this is a really changing space. Jobs are going to be completely different years from like when we're graduating college even. So we'd love to hear where Project Olas and Creamos are going.
Yeah, well, as in education department, I can tell you, there is like a lot of needs that we see in the program. We started this program this year, and this like crazy year, the pandemic and everything, it has been like challenging by like another challenge, and it's like a lot of things at the same time. So as we have realized, and that's something that I share with Rebecca like a couple of times, like when you help someone, it's not only, and that's what I say all the time, it's not only about the money. It's like when you help someone to teaching something that they are never gonna forget it, or they can like put in practice, is so much better, because you have to give the tools to the people that you really want to see have a future. And I think for my department in education, that I'm like looking forward with my team, to see our students to have a better present, a better future when they're in. So in education, for example, and I know that probably is gonna sound really basic, but for example, technology. A lot of our students, they before like didn't have any experience to like being actually using a computer, and they are adults. So for to like actually focus, like we are like trying to focus in technology for they to learn, because this is one of the basic tools that they need to know in order to get a job, and communication like skills. So for us, it's like those like little things, but at the end, like there are huge things for us to management and next year, or in the a couple years after this one, is to prepare our students to be like in education, and in general, like in the different areas. What we look for is like for them to have a leadership in their communities, for they to be prepared to like be themselves, and to teach them just how to do it. And one of the best things that I can say about my job, and is really like I'm just really happy to see is how they change by the things that they are learning, by the things that they are doing. So how they change their like the environment with their family, with the communities, with the things that they do, is just, it's really amazing. So we just like are like the guide for them, but they do the rest, and that's really nice to just like to see that, and to be part of it.
Yeah, I think well, with Olas, I think maybe at the beginning, I think we were considering a lot more, diversifying into other languages, looking at all the communities, because obviously it's the waste management systems in most urban areas in not only Central America, but all of Latin America, North Africa, Asia. It's a huge issue. So obviously there's room for expansion in terms of the problem that people are dealing with. But the more we've grown and the more we've gotten to know the community, the more we've seen the just vitality of staying there. Like we need to, we want to stay. I think as we scale, the goal is to get more involved in the community, not less, and get form even stronger bonds in the community. And I think that, yes, so long term, I believe that organizations like Olas are really the future of learning. I think we're all seeing why the education system as it is needs to change, needs to grow. There's room for disruption. I think Olas is one of those disruptors, I hope. I think we're seeing a lot of traction with university partnerships. So I think we're seeing the way universities are going to change the way they teach language and the way they interact with the world. So I think that Olas has a clear path forward for the future, which is really exciting to me. And it opens up a lot of doors to think about how we want to get involved in the community. Like what other sort of changes could we help the community like provide for the community, because that's not the right way to put it, but how could we elevate more people to positions of power within what we already do? How could we expand our own programming to address other needs that are coming up that Olas itself can't? So there, I think that's the way we would look at expanding, getting more involved in the community. Yeah. Was that the whole question? I feel like there was another part of the question that I'm forgetting.
No, that was wonderful. Thank you both. We also have a question in the chat from Hannah, and she's asking, what is the most challenging part of your job?
I'm excited to hear Carmen's answer.
I think that one of the most challenging thing in my job is, I don't know, there's many things sometimes. But I think it's like to management time, because there is like a lot of things to do. Like it's like when, like personally, is when I have to like actually make myself stop, because like it's not like the daily like problems that you have to solve every day with this, for example, with the students, with like everyone like around. It's just how to like have the time to do like the administration work, and also like this part of the teaching part, and just also like the personal life. So sometimes, like for me, it's not actually a problem. I really love it, but I know that I have to find the balance between, because it's a lot of things, and when you are starting, like I can totally understand Rebecca, because like we are just starting this education program. It's really new for us. So there's like a lot of things, like some like minimal like details that you have to consider and think into where to plan everything. So I think that the time management is one of the like challenging part for me.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say something else, but no, that's absolutely it. It's being able to like stop doing Olas for a second. And I've noticed, I mean, I don't want to stop doing Olas, because I absolutely love what I'm doing, and it feels like, you know, the right thing for me. And I think everybody on the team feels the same way. Like everybody's in the same sort of boat, but it's also necessary to take breaks, which I've slowly started to concede. I think burnout is real. Like it's very real, and it's very powerful. And the most scary thing about burnout is that it'll like hit you all of a sudden, and it's like it's just like this, you're walking through molasses, and all the plans that you had, it's like it just becomes very, very hard to even try. And I'd never experienced anything like that before with school or any other job I had. And so yeah, just completely honest about like what it's like to start something completely new. It takes everything in you and then some. And so you have to be able to disconnect yourself from it, and you know, kind of bring yourself back to the stage you were when it was all beginning and you're creating new ideas, and it's just like taking yourself away from the stress and the kind of the spotlight. So I've actually started taking every Sunday off, even though I'm a like full-time student. I just know that I need to be reliable more than anything with Olas. So if I take one day off a week and do something completely not Olas related and not school related that day, I know that I can show up my best for the rest of the 6 days of the week, and not have to worry about just running out of like energy to give, because it's real, it happens. Yeah, so no, I was gonna say doing the recordings for pitch competitions, because I'm a perfectionist, and so I have like thousands of takes, and it takes me hours and hours and hours and hours and hours to do it right, and the pressure of that. But no, I'd say the burnout and knowing how to knowing when to put the brakes on so that you can stay energized is worse, is harder, is more important.
Yeah, that's some awesome advice there too. I think for all of Georgetown students could definitely have help with learning to take some time for themselves. But so our last question before we wrap up today is, I think everyone has kind of seen since COVID and over the summer with BLM, is our generation is really politically and socially motivated to make a lot of change. But I think a common theme from tonight was how important like local and centering the voices of the communities we want to help change. So I guess if there's any final thoughts on how we can help center localized change in the messaging that's going on around right now in a lot of different places.
Yeah, I mean, I can touch on that a little bit. I think that one of the things that I've started to think more is, like, I think we have a tendency to think that issues is my internet bad? Can you guys hear me?
You were cutting out a little bit, but we're back on.
Oh, shoot. Okay, what's the last thing you heard? It happens, it's Maine.
I think maybe start from the beginning.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, what I was saying was, I think that we have a tendency to believe that problems are simpler than they are, especially like bigger problems or problems that are kind of at a like the macro level. So I think it's helpful to think about like your family, like think about a dynamic in your family or a problem that you have in your family or with your friend group, and think about how complex that problem is in and of itself, like this micro level problem. So you can only imagine how complicated macro level problems are. So I think that that's one of the reasons that that's really the main reason that community-based change is really the only recipe for change that works for the community, because like I could never understand how complex the issues are that face Zone 3. So we need to have humility. We need to elevate local leaders and local voices and listen to them, and trust their gut instincts when it comes to what's going to work for them. Because if I can barely even understand how to like diagnose the issues in my own like interpersonal relationships sometimes, why do I think that I'm going to have the skills myself to change the world? We need to listen to the people that are most affected.
Yeah, I think that for me, my last thought, like for everyone in this Zoom conversation, is just give yourself a chance to learn something new, just to be open to learn something new. And through the journey, you are going to find like amazing things that are going to help you for the rest of your life. So just to give you the chance to learn from someone else from somewhere else, different country, different culture.
of a better way to end it. You both are so inspiring. I think both Daisy and Ava are touching on that in the chat. We are so honored to have both of you come in and really teach us so much about the importance of the work that you do. You have a lot of inspiration for all of us. And I think we would love to end it with just saying that, as both of our speakers have mentioned, community-based change is so crucial, especially in regards to how Creamos and Project Olas really work with the community in Zona 3 of Guatemala City to be able to provide more opportunities, more equity. And so Sarah just dropped the link for starting a conversation with Project Olas, as well as supporting us with our holiday raffle. Both go to wonderful causes, one with supporting Olas moms, and then the raffle being able to support the Olas Scholarship Fund for students from low-income backgrounds. So we really appreciate all of you coming out to Navigating Nonprofits. It's been such a pleasure to have all of you here together. And with that, we'll say thank you and look out for the start of 2021 for some more National Network events. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All.
Thank you all for coming.
That was great. Wow.
So wonderful to have you both. I wish we could just, like in person
Hi,
and just have a
someday.
conversation
Someday.
with all of us.
Hi.
Someday soon.
Hi,
Yeah.
Rebecca. This is
Hi.
Rachel, Noelle's mom. I made a comment on the
Okay.
conversation. I think you are so right on with everything. I really liked how you said about sustainability and the language of business. I think if you just steer with that, you'll do awesome. I'm so
Thank
proud of
so
you.
much, Mrs. Whitman. Thank you. I
You're
love your daughter,
welcome.
by the way.
Oh, thank you. I love her too. When are you coming to
Wow.
Seattle? I'd love to
I would-
meet you.
I mean, I would love to. I can't wait for things to calm down a bit. I've never even, Noelle and I have met once. I've never met Sarah. Yeah, it's crazy times.
She
I
has
think about,
Guatemala too, priority.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Carmen-
Carmen, Noelle and I would like very
She
much
was
to go to, I think Noelle and I have always wanted to go to Guatemala ever since she did a project in 5th grade or something like that.
Yeah, we can't wait. It's going to be like this literal magical moment when all of us are in Guatemala and we're all standing there. Like, it finally happened.
Yeah.
You'll be our tour guide, so get ready.
Oh, yeah. Oh, by the way, Rebecca, I am taking immersion classes. I had my lesson 2 today.
Oh my gosh, wait, what mom are you paired with?
Ashley.
Ashley. Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad. You have to tell me how it goes. Ashley started working with us pretty recently, actually, but she's doing amazing.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think I have a recruit, another older person to take classes.
Awesome. Awesome.
Thanks for coming.
Okay. Well, good job. I'll go now. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
We appreciate it.
Bye.
What a great event. Bye-bye.
My mom just took over that.
No, it's so sweet. Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna take a picture real quick. If everyone wants to smile, I wanted to give people notice. All right, cool. I think it turned out. Oh, I realized I recorded all of Noelle.